I'll let you get ready and I'll start the timer for 5 minutes. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I guess.
Okay, so, yay! Okay, all yours.
Hello. Hello, I am Willem van Onsem, and I'm going to talk about model-based bot converters, which is actually quite nice because the previous talk also went about bot converters. So most of you probably write a lot of bots like that one. If you have, for example, a view where you want to look at the details of a profile, you write a bot with a profile and then the username of that person from which you want to see the profile. And in the view, then of course you receive the username. Thank you. And as a result, you make a database query where you look for the user with that username and then you do extra processing. And so my idea was, what if we would work with the models directly? That would mean that we write a bot converter as the one here. So the regex is just a sequence of words, characters. And then you have the two Python methods, which is essential, which basically looks up the user with that username. And if there is no such username, it raises a value error. That will come up later why that's useful. And then the toURL does the opposite. So it takes a value, which is usually a user, and it then takes its username as part of the bot. And in case it's not a user, we will for now assume that it is a username already, so that no conversion is needed. If we would do that, we can register that bot converter with the name user.username, which makes it clear we are going to fetch a user by its username, and we will pass that user as the variable user to the profile. Now, as a result, the view is simplified because it takes as input a user, which is a user object, so it's no longer a string with the username, it's the user object itself. And as a result, if we print, for example, the email of that username, and we visit a page, then it will, for my username, print myuser@myhost.org, for example, if that's in the database. And the reverse is also true. If you have a template where you have a user, and you do the reverse, you only pass the user object, and it knows for itself that it has to fetch the username from that user object. So there is no more user.username. That means that if you later change your mind and would use an email address, for example, instead of the username, you can still use that. And you only need to adapt the bot converter for it. Because of the value error, if the conversion fails, it will look for the next pattern. So that means that you can have overlapping pods. So you can have a pod anything that first looks for the user with that username, and if that fails, you look for a group with that name. And you can make a sequence of anything that you want to search for. Now, that's typically not a good idea. Why? Because the username and the group name can overlap. And there can be users that have, by accident, the same name. And another problem is, you make a lot of queries. First, you will look at the user with that name, then to the group with that name, etc. Another problem is, we make queries eagerly. That means that if you here, for example, visit the comment section of an article and you are required to be logged in, but you are not, then it will fetch the article first, then check login required, and as a result, it will fetch request.user and the article's two queries instead of one if you would do it with the old method. But we can resolve that problem. How? Exactly the same way they did it with request.user. They don't fetch the user every time, they only fetch it when it's needed. And how do they do that? With lazy objects. And we can adapt the bot converter quite easily to a simple lazy object. That's an object that promises to fetch the user, but it does not do that unless you need an attribute for it. For example, you need to call string for it, then it will fetch the object. Or you need to use the email address, then it will fetch it as well. So as a result, if we here have a view, and only during business hours you can see the user ID, it will do a lot more work during business hours, but not when you are sleeping. So at the first comment line, we have not fetched the user yet. It pretends to be a user, and you can have all attributes you want that are on the user object, but only if you really access one, it will fetch it from the database. And we also did something similar to bypass foreign key sets. So here we will only fetch the article and not the author. That's the last thing I want to say. Okay.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope you enjoy the conference. Thank you. So today I will talk about Dungeons, Dragons and Django. So this is me, Ömer Faruk Abacı. I'm a senior backend warrior with a level 5. So it means that like I've been working for 5 years as a backend developer. And today I will talk to you about a story of mine. So one day when I was wandering around the realms of Django, I encountered a computer and it was begging me to save the Princess Django. And I needed to do that and I accepted the quest. So then right after accepting the quest, I just started walking on my way to the castle to save the Princess Django. And my first warrior was lookups. Actually, it was a pretty easy battle for me. I could understand that. But I was at level 1, so I got a bit of a damage. But I managed to level up to 2. And my next enemy on the way was subquery monster. And it was hard to understand for me in my second year. But I tried my best to beat it, get help from my friends, and I could manage to beat it. But, of course, I got some damage. And after continuing my way, I encountered one of my most scary enemies, select and prefetch related. And this one was a twin-headed monster that was a really tough battle for me. But I could manage to beat it with, again, like asking for my friends, reading the handbook that I had, which is the Django documentation. And then I was in a really bad shape. Still the wounds of that battle hurts time to time. And my last enemy was custom joins. So this was an enemy that I have never seen before. I was looking at the handbook. I couldn't see anything. I searched. I found nothing. And I was wondering that how many of you did to do custom joins with Django before? Nice. I see some people that I also encountered this enemy, so I'm not the one. And I was like, I didn't think of anything. I needed to go to the source code dungeon, which is a mysterious dungeon, dangerous dungeon. And while wandering around the dungeon, I encountered this class, foreign key class, which I was used to. And it was inherited from the foreign object class. And I wondered what was that, and I followed the path. And in the initialization method of this class, for an object class, I saw 2 fields, from fields and to fields. And I think that might be what I was looking for. So actually, it was a really valuable object that I can bring to the battle with me. And now, enchanted by the foreign object, I was ready to battle the custom join. And the first attack came, it was like nothing. It's a basic class even with a unique together, so I don't know like if it was trying to help me or what. But then the real attack begins. So I got this book model, that has a title, that's fine. But for the next 3 lines, I got the bad database design curse from the enemy. So the outer ID was an integer field, and there was also outer first name and last name, which are char fields. Normally, you would have a foreign key for that, a single foreign key. And I think that, okay, now I can do a refactor to get rid of these and use the foreign key. But now enemy was using the managed false magic on me, so I don't have any way to change the database. Now, that time I remembered the object that I get from dungeon, the foreign key object. So I defined the foreign object fields on my model. And as you can see, like from fields is outer ID, to fields is ID. From fields is the fields in the book model, and the to fields is the model in the other model. And I also knew that I couldn't do it without tests. I wrote all the tests, and I defeated the enemy. And thank you all, but the princess was in another castle.
Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. I'm Josh. I am a recruiter for Foxy Talent. I won't bore you too much because I probably have already chewed your ear off, but this is going to be about CV advice or resume, as some of you others will say. Show of hands. Who calls it a CV? Brilliant. Who calls it resume? You're wrong. I won't go on too much, but outside of work, I've got twins, married to my wife, I've been with for 14 years. Inside of work, I've been doing recruitment for 5 now. Before that, I actually was an estate agent as well, so no booze for that one, please. Foxy Talent, as I've said, quickly, what we do, donate to the DSF. We're really proud about that. We are a recruitment company, but we also are gold sponsors here and also in DjangoCon US as well. And a big one for us is the Django Social, which we create and run and is now operating in Egypt and Ghana and a few other places as well. So, CV basics. First and foremost, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You don't need your age. You don't need your full address anymore. Please do not have ilovedogs@gmail.com as your email. Create a professional one and use it. Much easier. Some of the good things, stick to one font where you can. Headings, subheadings is a brilliant use as well. Simply use your location. If you're in London, just put London. If you're in Porto, put Porto. And as I mentioned already, don't have any dodgy email addresses. Top of your CV, so this is all personal advice and this is my opinion, so everyone's is different. But at the very top, clearly your name and your title, where you're from. Big one, add any external links, so link your LinkedIn, use your GitHub as well. A short bio, this can be to eliminate certain questions, but who are you, how many years of experience do you have, and also what are you looking to do? So for example, I am looking to be a senior developer to coach and mentor, or I am looking for a role where I can further develop my career. Just dropping that, you want to start banging the drum about what you do, so your key skills, Python, Django, if you're front end, highlight some of those, more DevOps, whatever, highlight those as well. Next, under the key skills section is employment history. You can read this as well, but firstly, title, company, and your time frame that you've been there. Clearly go down in order of date, so most recent first. On the right-hand side, so you'll see the other things that I mentioned, add kind of your experience of what have you been doing, what have you been developing, have you had responsibilities coaching, mentoring other people as well. A key thing as well, just to make things stand out, is highlighting the tech stack again. So you've already had key skills. By highlighting the key skills again, you're reaffirming to the person reviewing the CV that you have got experience in that. If companies use ATS, automated systems, they might just, you apply here, it downloads the CV. If you're not listing it enough, you could be being missed out. So it's just a key little tip. Clearly, educations and achievements. If you've done a code academy, highlight it, add it. If you've done the bachelor's, master's, PhD, add what it is, add a thesis. It could be relevant to the person that's reading your CV and it might build a bit of rapport. Any community involvement, you are all here. Thank you for coming, clearly, but also add it in your CV. You like to attend conferences where you learn. It's self-development. It's going to help improve you, and it certainly looks good when you're reading a CV as well. Personal projects, again, if you're junior and you don't have much career history experience, this is a great chance for you to advertise what you have done. So whether it's you've built a searching tool for the most recent football results, I'm a football fan, highlight what it is, what it's called, what you've done, and then your tech stack for the personal project. List about 2 or 3, you don't need to add loads, but that will be, like I say, reiterating your experience. Big one, be personable. Please do not be like every other person. It's going to be something that helps you build rapport with that person. That is all from me. I did write an article. If you want to read it or any other stuff that we do at Foxley, scan that. But thank you very much. I'm around for questions later.
Okay, so
Hello.
it's all yours.
Before I begin, I just want to take a moment and thank all the organizers and volunteers who made this conference possible. So just a round of applause. All right, so I want to talk about how can you use multiple databases with Django. So it's a kind of an obscure part of Django, but it's very interesting as well. So my name is Kadir Aziz. I work in a broker company. We're based in Germany, but we also have other branches in other countries as well. So if you want to check, you can. That's the link. So the first question is why multiple databases? So why we need multiple databases? So you probably don't need it. It depends on the use cases. Especially if you're a small to mid-sized company, you probably don't need multiple databases. One database works just fine for you. But if you're scaling up and growing, so is your data is growing. So you probably need to consider maybe adding a new database that could somehow make your app a bit more performant. I just listed a few reasons that why you need to do it. It's not really the only reasons, but it also depends on the kind of architecture of your app as well. So for example, if you want to separate your read and write queries, you probably have a lot of heavy read queries. You probably want to redirect them, all of them, into a separate read replica. So that's one use case. The other use case could be you have a legacy system and you want to somehow upgrade it. And in the process, you don't want to really have any downtime, so you could also use a multiple databases. So the new one will have a new database, and the legacy system will still use a legacy database. And also for the compliance and security reasons, if you have a payment app, maybe you want to keep the payment part in a separate and secure databases, or also maybe for some compliance reason. You don't want to keep your customer data in a specific region, so that's also and also geographical distribution. So possibly it's not really a good reason, but you can consider if that really makes sense for you. Then, okay, let's say if you have any of these situations. So how can you do it? How can you integrate multiple databases in your Django? The good news is it's really simple in Django and it's straightforward. You just need to be add a very minimal code to accommodate this change. So the first thing, maybe, I hope it works. Yes. So the first thing that you need to do is you can add your database connection in the setting.py. So you can have multiple databases, but for example, just as an example, I have a read replica, and I say I have a legacy database, so just for an example. So what else do you need? You need a router. So a database router is a very simple class. It has just 4 classes, just 4 functions. It's just one for the, and then one for the reading. So if you want to redirect all your read queries to a specific database, you can specify that in that function. If you want to redirect all the queries in another database, that's also a function, and you can return that database there. Allow relationship. So there is a small caveat there. Django does not support cross database relationship. So because for good reasons, because it's going to get more complex if you do it. But if you want to really do it, there are way of around to doing it. And also the other part is allow migrations. Do you want to only keep migrations in one database, or you want to have migrations and run in a multiple databases? But that's also something that you can configure. You need one more thing, and then you're ready to go. You need to register your router into your settings. So, and then you're ready to go. So no other work, and just ready to launch your app. And that's why Django is really a framework for people who are with deadlines, or perfectionists for deadlines. I'm not really sure about perfectionists, but. So one last thing. So that setting that the router that I said is also work, but you can also manually select your databases. So that's also, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank
Give it
you.
a try. Okay. My name is Matthias. I work at Grafana, particularly in the Grafana on-call team. And I want to tell you a little bit how we use Django, specifically in our project. So, quick question. How many of you know or use Grafana? Nice. I expected that. Probably most of you know Grafana because of its dashboards and monitoring capabilities and all the panels, visualizations, logs, metrics, and stuff. But inside Grafana itself, we now have also incident response and management tools, particularly Grafana on-call. How many of you know or use Grafana IRM tools? One person. Nice. Well, let's try to fix that. I will focus on Grafana on-call. There are other tools in the suite because it's the project I'm working on, and also because it's an open source Django-based project, which is also unexpected somehow for Grafana projects. Grafana on-call is a tool for on-call management with flexible workflows and mostly designed and oriented towards developers. So why is interesting to talk in this context about Grafana on-call? Well, because it's a somehow complex Django project running in the wild and with an architecture that you can see here, hopefully. How does it work? We have monitoring systems running somewhere, maybe Grafana itself or ServiceNow, Jira, or any other tool you use. We receive alerts from these tools in our Django server, Django project. That alert payload is processed and routed and grouped depending on parameters that you can define. And the moment we receive the alert, we trigger a background worker, a background task, which will be handled by a celery worker. And a lot of magic will happen there. We need to route and group the alerts. We need to start an escalation chain and notify users who are on call at that time. On the other hand, this Django server also implements a Django REST Framework API, which is the one used by the mobile app, and the Grafana plugin, which is running inside Grafana, so you get a UI for these interfaces, for this backend. And also, we have, workers running the task who will trigger the notifications, and the server will expect the updates from the third-party services also, depending on the status. So that's a quick look. Let's see if we can see all this thing working. Not so nice, but here you can see that you can set up an integration using different tools that will allow you to receive alerts from these tools. This is an integration I set up before the talk, where I set up a webhook where I will receive some payload that will trigger an alert. You can define templates to indicate, Jinja templates, to how this alert will render when the notification is sent to different services. And you can also make complex conditions using Jinja also to define the route this alert will follow, depending on the priority, the urgency, or some other parameter coming from the payload. Finally, you have the escalation chain, which defines how the different steps that the alert will follow to page the right person. It's not really visible there, but there is a wait step, and it will also trigger a notification for the person on call for a particular schedule. So if we check the schedule, sorry, this is because I set up an alert to be triggered 5 minutes later after I started the talk, but we have done some delay. But right now this is the schedule. I'm on call. I hope no one else is on call at this time. I got the alert, as you could hear from my phone. And well, that's a quick summary. There is the notification in Slack. Let me close this. Thanks. Sorry for the inconvenience. If you want to know more, please let me know. You can follow the project in GitHub. And that's it. Thank you.
My name is Justin Mayer, and I'm going to tell you today about how you can join the Fediverse on your own domain with Django. So first of all, why? Why would you want to do this? One of the reasons that I like it is that, well, there's really two reasons. One, you have more control when you have things on your own domain. If you join an instance, you might find that they don't do updates, you don't get the latest features, they could have security issues, they might decide that they have other things to do with their time and they don't want to do it anymore, and suddenly you have to migrate somewhere else. So you have more control. The other one I like is that you have, there's branding, and you might say well, I already have this domain for my company, for my open source project, and I want to use that domain as part of my identity. So for me, I have a project called Pelican. It's a static site generator. I want to have it be Pelican at getpelican.com because I already use the getpelican.com domain. So there's a couple ways you could do this. You could host Mastodon. The problem with hosting Mastodon is that if you want to do this for multiple identities, it means installing it multiple times. Mastodon will only support one domain at a time. It's also quite resource intensive, particularly if you want to do search. It uses Java-powered search that's rather heavy on RAM and other requirements. There's this great project called Takahi. I think I have the pronunciation right. It's like an endangered bird from New Zealand, I think. And this was created by Andrew Godwin, a Django core developer. And it is a Django project, unsurprisingly. And one of the things that I like the most about it is that it solves this problem of multi-tenancy, of being able to create as many domains as you want on a single instance without having to reinstall it a bunch of times. So I created a tool called Fortressa, and I use this to set up new web-based open source applications when there's something that I want to do. And so if I log in, I see this dashboard of instances that I've already created. If I want to install a new one, I see a much longer list of ones I haven't added. If I tap on Takahi, I see that this is the description of it. I say, okay, I want to create my first instance. I then fill out all these different form fields. There are a lot of them, but there's a lot of configuration options, and I want to support as many of those as I can. Once it's up and running, we can see that here's the URL that I had entered into that form back there. Let's tap on that and see where we are. So this is what you see when you log in for the first time. And then you tap on the user thing to create your first user. You put in your email address. It says we're going to send you an email link. You then get that link. You then tap on it to confirm. You set your password for the first time. It says your password is set. Then we log in for the first time, and great. Now it's time to create a new identity. But before you can do that, you have to view a domain in order to choose a domain for your identity. Well, we don't have any yet, so first we have to create one. So we add a domain. Here you've got a choice to make. Do you want to use a single domain for your whole instance, but it has to be dedicated for that? Well, for me, I already have a site, a Pelican-powered site on getpelican.com. I don't want to use that whole thing for this purpose. I want to use a separate social.getpelican.com for that. And so in this case, I want to use the split domain strategy where one is the display domain and one is the service domain. So that's what I've done here. Once you have created your domain, you can go back to the other screen. We can now continue with creating an identity. Here I say, okay, I want Pelican at getpelican.com. We can see that we have now created that identity. And there's a couple things that I want to choose here. One is I want to hide the login. I'm the only one who's ever going to use this instance, so we don't need to see the login. And I want to have a single user profile redirect, where if you go to social.getpelican.com, it automatically redirects to the Pelican at getpelican.com profile page. So we can see that our identity is created, and we can then go to the client side of things, because one of the things that you see here is that Takahi doesn't include a web client like Mastodon does. You have to use a different client to do that. I use an iPhone app called Toot, and I'm going to add a server. We're going to put in social.getpelican.com. We tap on the Takahi link below. Okay, now it's been added. We tap on it in order to see the settings area. We see the settings. We tap the sign-in link. Then we go to start authentication. This is a rather long process, as you can see. You continue, put in the details from your original user, you log in, you select your identity, you hit allow, and after being somewhat tired, you see that you now have your account and now you can actually post to it. So I think this is a really cool project. If you haven't joined the Fediverse and you have a domain that you want to use for that purpose, this is a great way to do it. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, I will be at the party and at the sprints tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Cool. So let's dream together for Django. So I'm Sarah from DSF. I'm a board member since last year, and I would like to share with you some of my dreams, and hopefully we will make it someday. So I have a lot of dreams, so let's start because I don't have enough time. I would like to hire more Django fellows, so we will have time for doing more feature and make more improvement. So I would like also to have more money to do sponsor conferences, and it would be a way to have more people who come with the opportunity grants, or more money for the organizer to make great event like this one. And a better experience for attendee and organizer because it can cost a lot just to come, eat food, and all the stuff like that. Also, I would like to help our diversity and contribution mission. So by that, buying missing materials in, for example, computer, books, stuff like that, especially for example, in Africa, or funding more current initiative we have, for Django Girls or Django Space, and maybe other, if there is any. And more, and I'm sure you have also ideas. So this is the thing, but for that we need money for sure. So by that, there is a fundraising working group. I've done a draft for that, and there is already members, but I think Django is nothing without the community, so you can join this working group if you want to help. And there is a link just below. And there is also a working group not related to fundraising if you want to contribute, related to all the things I've listed here. And this is currently the goal we have for halfway through the year of fund. And I don't know what will be the percentage we will have end of the year, but I truly think that you can all help, or maybe friends you have or colleagues could help also. So give back to the community and donate. You can donate through the website, through GitHub sponsors. There is also the PyCon campaign we talked about at the beginning, so you can have the license, and all the money will be given to the DSF association, and you can join the fundraising working group or be part of a working group, so we can full this art fully and make other things. And that's all for me.
Thank you. Wow, what a 3 days, eh? It's been amazing. So I'm not talking about DjangoCon now. I'm switching hats, or rather switching t-shirts. And I'm going to talk about PyCon Portugal. So as a organizing member of PyCon Portugal, we did the first edition in 2020, leveraging it on DjangoCon 2020 in Porto. And then we did it again last year in 2023. We have a goal of going through all Portuguese cities with PyCon, bringing technology and raising awareness in these different cities. So the first PyCon Portugal was 1 day, and we had lots of attendees. 32% of them were Portuguese, which is amazing because it's PyCon Portugal. The rest of them comes from 27 different countries. So last year we had 37% of Portuguese attendees and a huge group of foreign attendees. So from PyCon Portugal first and the second, we increased from 1 day to, from 1 day to 3 days, and we got much more submissions, much more speakers, keynotes, grants. We tripled the money in grants. So now we are organizing the 3rd edition in Braga, another Portuguese city, which is amazing because well, it's up north. We are still in the north of Portugal, but eventually we'll get into the south, no problem. So it will be on October 17 to 19. We'll have 3 days also of talks and workshops. And well, there's a way to get a free ticket. If you want to volunteer, we'll have the usual teams like comms, sponsors, content. So engage, please help us. Or you can apply for a grant and come to visit us. So why Braga, the next city? Well, Braga is amazing because it has a unique mixture of cultural heritage, history, Portuguese culture, and technology. It's one of the cities with the most, the highest numbers of foreign tech companies. We have an international nanotechnology center. So it's great because it has a great mixture of innovation, academics. We have the University of Minho over there also, and businesses. So it's a great mixture. And another thing about Braga is, oh, sorry, it's not this one. Bottom line, it would be great to have you all in Braga in October. So please think about it with some care, and hope to see you there, okay?